Welcome to Blue Book. Today, Omurice, a beautiful Japanese style omelette with a simple fried rice topped with a rich demi-glaze. Let's get started. So to begin, we're going to start with our demi-glaze, which is essentially a stock that has had the chance to reduce for hours and hours until it just becomes this sauce that is packed full of umami. So to a pan, I'm going to add some chicken carcasses along with a couple onions, and I'm going to cook that at 220 degrees for around 10 to 15 minutes. Now taking that out of the oven, we can see we're starting to get a nice char on that. So to that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. I'm going to roll that around, getting a really nice coat on my chicken. And then we're going to return that to our oven to finish searing off for another 10 minutes. And now we know we're done when we have a beautiful caramelization on the chicken. So now in my large stock pot, I'm just going to place all my chicken. Now keep in mind, you can use whatever bone you want. I see a lot of people using chicken wings for this, and that's fine. It's just going to add a little bit more fat at the end, which we can remove later. And now we're going to just add some cold water until our bones are completely submerged. Now please don't forget about the pan we cooked our chicken in, that's coated with flavour. So with boiling hot water, we're going to pour that over our pan and really scrape it down, getting all those little bits off. Then we're going to add that back to our stock pot, and we're going to put that over a medium-high heat for around 10 to 15 minutes until all that scum has risen to the top. We're then going to skim that scum straight off, leaving us a nice clear broth. And then that's it. We're going to let that simmer away for 6 to 8 hours, just adding water occasionally when the broth starts to reduce a little too much. Now in our last half an hour, we're going to add our aromatics. So I'm going to add some carrots here, but something like rosemary or thyme will go really well. And now we're going to dump out all those bones. So once that's done, I'm just going to take my strainer and I'm going to pour through just to make sure I get all those little bones out. Now we're going to be left with a really rich broth, but it's going to have a little too much fat in there. So we're going to cool it down. So we're going to add some ice, and what you can actually see, if we leave that for a little bit of time, all the fat rises to the top, and then we can just skim off that fat. Now if you don't have ice, feel free, leave this in the fridge overnight. And this fat is probably not really good for too much. I would just really discard it at this point. Now, depending on what type of bone you used here, you're going to have a different amount of fat. For example, chicken wings, you're going to have a layer about 2 to 3 centimeters thick that you're going to have to skim off, which is more than fine. You just can't skip this step if that's the case. Now I'm just going to let this boil away for around 3 to 4 hours, skimming the top whenever I need to, until eventually we hit a saucepan worth of sauce, and this stuff is liquid gold. I'm telling you, this sauce is absolutely fantastic. Jammed with umami, no need to season, it's perfect just as is. Now on to a really simple fried rice. So with our wok, we're going to put that over a high heat with some neutral oil. We're going to let that sit until it gets really hot, until that oil starts to smoke. And then we're going to add our onion. We're going to give that a mix around before adding our chicken. Give that a little mixy mix. Now if you're in a domestic kitchen like me, you're going to have a little bit of trouble getting some good char on this, so just give it a little extra time if you need to. Now I'm going to place in about 1 tablespoon of garlic and about half a tablespoon of ginger. Now you always do this last because that can burn under this high heat. Now we're going to add some rice. Now this is day-old rice. So we've got all that water and that steam out, and that's going to help us get a really good fry on this. Now just a little trick to get that really good fry on that rice. You want to just put it at the bottom of your wok, and you want to press it against the sides, and that just ensures a really good char to our fried rice. And just seasoning that with some salt and pepper. Now near the end here, we're going to actually add some of our demi-glaze back to our wok, and we're going to give that a little stir, and that's going to add a little bit of flavour to our rice. Now if you don't want to bother with that demi-glace, you can always add a little bit of soy, a little bit of oyster, and that will give a little bit of saltiness and a little bit of umami. Onto our Japanese omelette. We're going to use around 3 eggs per omelette. We're going to give that a good pinch of salt and really mix that up heavily before adding around 10% of its mass as cream. So that means if we have 150 grams of eggs, we want to add 15 grams of cream. Give that a really good mix and put that through a strainer to make it as fine as possible. We're going to cook this over a really high heat using a very small non-stick pan and coating in a neutral oil. Now spooning in our egg mixture, it's going to start cooking right away. So we want to get our chopsticks in and we want to mix that. and continuously mix it, scraping the bottom of the pan just to get a nice even cook over those eggs. Every now and again taking it away if you feel like there's getting too much heat on those eggs. Now I'm going to let that settle at the bottom of the pan for around 10 to 20 seconds before I start using my chopsticks to tip it over itself, hitting the edge of the handle and Okay, let's try that again. Now we're going to begin to just hit the bottom of our pan, and that's going to help the omelette push near the top of the pan and start to roll over on itself. We can then get underneath our omelette and help fold it over itself, and that's going to create the bottom layer of our omelette. Now using a smooth motion, we want to roll the omelette to the bottom of the pan, and then that's going to create a nice seal on the bottom, leaving a really creamy egg interior. And that's it, that's a Japanese omelette. Now in Japan they've got these really nice molds for their rice, which allows the omelette to sit on top without as much support down the sides. So when you actually give it a good slice like this, it actually cuts down really easily and it just flops open. And as you can see, a really creamy interior. Now I've got some really thickened demi-glaze here, and I'm just going to pour that all over the top. And that's it, Japanese omurice done. Now just giving that a try, we've got this beautiful creamy interior. We've got a good hit of umami from that fried rice. This is really a fantastic homey dish that will just fill you up.